Hi everyone, gracias que Carlos to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. I know how much everyone loves different takes of spinach pie, and I'm bringing you another one. Today we're going to be making a spinach and green skillet pie. It's very similar to a spinach pie, except if you followed me and all of my versions of it. I normally do not cook the spinach filling, but today we are because we're using a lot of greens. We're going to make a filling with a mixture of spinach and other greens like kale and chard, but you can use anything to make this. Of course, there's going to be feta cheese in there, and it's going to be topped with puff pastry. It all comes together in a cast iron skillet and then bakes in the oven, so it's super simple to make. Let's get started. So I'm starting off by thinly slicing 6 scallions. I'm just going to thinly slice them all the way down to the ends, and then I'm going to put them in a bowl with water inside of it. Swish them around so if there's any dirt that's trapped inside, the dirt is going to sink down to the bottom. Then I'm going to go ahead and carefully lift them up and put them in a strainer so that way all of the excess water can drain off. Then I'm going to put them in a skillet that's heating over medium heat with a little bit of olive oil, and I'm going to cook them for just a few minutes until they begin to soften up. Then I've grated 3 garlic cloves. I'm just going to add them into the skillet just until they warm through. You do not want them to burn. Just mix them up, and then we're going to add all of the greens. So you can do this with all spinach or a combination of whatever greens you have on hand or you love. I like to use fresh greens for this and baby greens because they're delicate. I don't recommend using frozen for this. This is just going to be too much liquid in there. So I have 1.5 pounds of, they're sold as power greens in my Costco. It's basically a combination of spinach, baby kale, and baby chard. You can use arugula or whatever delicate baby green leaves you have on hand. And then I'm also going to add another pound of just baby spinach leaves. So that's 2.5 pounds of greens. That's what you need. But you're not going to add them in all at once, a few batches at a time, so that way they can wilt down and not overcook, and they're going to release their juices a little bit at a time. You want to cook them over high heat so that way you can get as much of that liquid to evaporate as possible. While you're doing this, while you're cooking them down, season each batch with a little bit of salt and some black pepper. Then there's still going to be some liquid left later on. This is a juicy filling. So to the pan, once you're done wilting down all of the greens, go ahead and add about 3 or 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Mix that in and then take it off of the heat. But before you take it off of the heat, let it cook down a little bit so it gets nice and toasted. Take it off of the heat and add a heaping teaspoon of dried dill. If you have fresh dill, I would say about 1/4 cup. If you don't like dill, you could do parsley. Just finely chop up about 1/4 cup of fresh parsley, or you could do a combination of mint and parsley and add that to the mixture. Mix it all up, and then go ahead and add 8 ounces of softened cream cheese. If the cream cheese is at room temperature, it's going to blend in very easily. So just keep mixing it and break it up until it's nice and smooth mixed into the greens. Then you're going to add between 6 to 8 ounces of feta cheese. Just crumble it in there, and I like to add a little bit more black pepper. Give it a taste. It probably won't need any more salt because the cream cheese and the feta cheese does have a good amount of salt. Just move the pan to the side, and then you can take out a sheet of puff pastry. Usually puff pastry is sold in a pack of 2 sheets, and it's about 1 pound for the whole thing, so you're going to need about 1/2 pound of puff pastry. But if you want to put more, you could definitely use both sheets and just cut them into squares and just layer them on top. It'll be extra flaky and extra puffy, but just roll it out so that way it fits inside of the pan. About 14 to 16 inches in diameter should do. Carefully put it over the green mixture and then just crinkle the sides so that way it's nice and rustic looking. I also like to cut a few slits on top just so that way the steam evaporates and everything just bakes evenly. Then in another little bowl, I make some egg wash. I combine 1 egg yolk with a couple of tablespoons of water, mix it all up, and I brush the top of the puff pastry with that. It's going to help it bake to become nice and beautifully golden. If you don't want to use the egg, you could definitely brush the top with some heavy cream or some half and half. You want to make sure that the oven is preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to bake for between 35 to 45 minutes. You'll know that it's ready once the puff pastry has puffed and it's a beautiful rich golden color. Take it out and let it sit for about 10-15 minutes, and it's going to be ready to serve. I'm going to clean up, and then we're going to do the taste test. So the spinach skillet pie was ready in 35 minutes in my oven. Your oven might bake a little bit differently, so just keep an eye on it. A few things. If you want the puff pastry to be puffier, then you can use both sheets of puff pastry that come in the packaging or a whole pound of it, and don't roll it out. That way they're going to bake up to be really nice and puffy, and you would just arrange them in a way where they don't overlap too much, so that way they bake evenly. You could even cut out circles or squares and just make a nice decorative top. It's up to you. If you want to skip the puff pastry and use phyllo, that is also an option. My favorite way to do that is to crinkle up the layers like I do in my accordion top pies, and it's very simple to do. I'll put links down below with some of those videos so that way you can follow that method, and you just brush them with butter or olive oil. It's up to you, and then you bake it the same exact way for the same amount of time. It might even bake up a little bit quicker because phyllo bakes a little bit faster than puff pastry sometimes, but again, keep an eye on it. The whole thing is going to be delicious for sure. It's time for the taste test. Amazing. That spinach filling tastes like a spinach dip, like a spinach and feta dip. It's so rich and delicious. The puff pastry is perfectly cooked and flaky and very easy to slice through. It's perfect for the holiday season. It's a nice appetizer or side to serve on your holiday table. I hope you guys give this one a try. The recipe is on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.